In 1992, a year defined by political change, technological transition, and the early signs of a rapidly evolving American economy, something seemingly mundane was being struck by the billions at the U.S. Mint: Lincoln 1-cent coins. These humble copper-plated zinc pennies were never intended to be rare. In fact, they were churned out by the millions every day. To most people, they were simply spare change, lost in couch cushions, dropped on sidewalks, or tossed into jars without a second thought. But behind the curtain of mass production, something unusual happened. Something small, something almost unnoticeable. Yet that subtle mistake would transform a select few 1992 Lincoln cents into treasures worth tens of thousands, up to $236,000 in high-stakes auctions that IT began with a design transition. You see, since 1982, the U.S. Mint had been striking Lincoln pennies with a modified reverse design known as the close AM. The space between the letters A and M in the word America on the reverse side was tightly closed, so close that they nearly touched. This was the standard for business strike coins, the kind meant for daily circulation. But in 1993, the Mint formally introduced the wide AM spacing for proof coins, special collector editions with mirror-like finishes. However, in a twist of fate, it appears in 1992, a small batch of business strike pennies was accidentally struck with that very same proof die design, resulting in a circulation coin with the wrong reverse. The 1992 close AM was born. But what makes this error so significant is its sheer rarity. Out of the billions of pennies minted that year, only a handful of 1992 close AM coins have been discovered. For seasoned numismatists, this discovery sent shockwaves through the coin-collecting world. It was like uncovering a buried clue in an otherwise solved puzzle. And with each new example found, values skyrocketed. For years, collectors have been combing through rolls of 1992 pennies, their fingers stained by copper, their eyes scanning for that minuscule detail, the nearly touching letters A and M, which separated an ordinary coin worth 1 cent from a rarity worth thousands. Adding to the excitement is the fact that this anomaly wasn't limited to just one mint. Though most known examples come from the Philadelphia Mint, there have been instances of 1992 D close AM coins struck in Denver as well. This further deepened the mystery. How did these proof dies make their way onto business strike production lines? Was it a deliberate reuse of an old die? A rushed substitution during a busy minting cycle? Or just human error lost in the shuffle of daily operations? Whatever the reason, it created one of the most valuable modern errors in Lincoln cent history. The design of the 1992 Lincoln cent otherwise remained consistent with previous years. On the obverse, Abraham Lincoln's iconic portrait by Victor David Brenner, unchanging since 1909, stood firm, his gaze fixed forward, calm, commanding. The word liberty hovered to his left, the date, 1992, anchored on the right. Just below the date, the tiny mint mark P or D indicated the coin's birthplace, Philadelphia or Denver. But the reverse was where things diverged. For nearly all 1992 coins, the letters in United States of America and E pluribus unum towered over the Lincoln Memorial, just like they always had. But only on the close AM error could you find the giveaway, the narrow spacing between those two telltale letters. It was subtle, often requiring magnification to confirm, yet it made all the difference as stories of discovery spread through coin forums, collector groups, and numismatic expos. The 1992 close AM began to achieve near-legendary status. It was proof that treasures still existed in everyday places, that a penny plucked from a parking lot could be worth more than a car. For every person who dismissed their pocket change as worthless, another found hope in the possibility of striking gold and copper. The thrill of the hunt only fueled demand. Collectors began hoarding 1992 pennies, scrutinizing each one under bright lights and digital microscopes. Dealers began paying top dollar for verified close AM examples. The grading agencies, PeaceGS and NGC, reported a spike in submissions of 1992 cents as hopeful finders submitted their coins in search of a miracle. And for a fortunate few, that miracle became reality. One verified 1992 P close AM Lincoln cent sold for a staggering $26,000. Another fetched $47,150 in a heritage auction. But the highest recorded sale? A pristine red specimen, graded MS-67 by PCGS, which realized a jaw-dropping $236,000 at auction. Yes, you heard that right. Nearly $250,000 for a 1-cent coin that most people would overlook. Oh, what does this mean for you? It means that every 1992 penny in your possession could be hiding a secret. A detail so small it escapes the naked eye, yet so significant it could change your financial life. It means you don't need to be a millionaire to collect valuable coins. You just need sharp eyes, a bit of patience, and maybe a little luck. The 1992 Lincoln penny teaches us that history, mystery, and value can be found in the most unlikely places. It reminds us that even the most common object can become extraordinary. That a tiny misalignment in a letter spacing, something you might not even notice, can be the difference between spare change and a six-figure payday. The next time you're handed a handful of coins of change, don't rush to drop them in a jar. Take a moment. Flip through them. Look closely. Among the pile of ordinary pennies might be the rare 1992 Close AM, your personal golden ticket. Because sometimes life hides its treasures in plain sight. And as promised, here are the actual auction prices that have turned these coins into legends. A 1992 P Close AM sold for $26,000 in circulated condition. A sharper example, graded MS-64RD, was auctioned by Heritage Auctions for $47,150. And the crown jewel, a 1992 D Close AM graded MS-67RD, went under the hammer for a jaw-dropping $236,000, setting a modern Lincoln cent record. These are not myths. These are real numbers, real sales, real coins. And they might just be sitting in your coin jar right now. It was a quiet year in 1995. The world was changing, technology was advancing, and in the heart of Denver, the U.S. Mint was producing what would become one of the most unexpectedly valuable coins in modern American history. The 1995 D. Lincoln 1-cent penny coin, a simple copper-plated zinc coin worth just a cent, was rolling off the presses by the millions. But hidden among the billions of coins minted that year, a few elusive dimes, marred by subtle imperfections and untouched brilliance, would come to command staggering prices decades later. The Lincoln cent has long been a cornerstone of American currency. Since its introduction in 1909, it has captured the attention of collectors for over a century. The 1995 D penny might appear ordinary at first glance. It has the same familiar profile of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner. It carries the same legendary motto, "In God We Trust," and the same unassuming date, 1995, etched just beside Lincoln's chest. Yet the story of this coin is far from mundane. The D mint mark beneath the date tells us this coin was minted in Denver. That year, the Denver Mint struck over 7 billion 1-cent coins. With numbers like that, you'd think this coin would be just another face in a crowd. But not all 1995 D pennies were created equal. Some left the mint with exceptional qualities. Others, incredibly rare, had errors or characteristics that would elevate them far beyond their humble denomination. Though the trained eye of a numismatist, certain 1995 D Lincoln pennies stand out. What sets them apart? The answer lies in their condition, their strike, their luster, and sometimes, in the rarest cases, in the mistakes. A strong die strike with full details, especially around Lincoln's coat and beard, is a promising start. Many collectors look for coins with full steps on the reverse memorial, indicating an uncirculated condition. But the real magic happens when error coins enter the mix. Among the most desirable errors associated with the 1995 D penny are off-center strikes, broad strikes, and double dies. Imagine a coin that is only 70% complete, with part of the design slipping off the planchet. That's an off-center strike. Or a coin that lacks a full rim and looks as if it were melted outward like a soft wax impression. That's a broad strike. But it's the doubling errors that truly set collectors' hearts racing. The 1995 Lincoln cent is well known for its Philadelphia minted double die obverse, DDO, variety, easily visible doubling in the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust." While this particular error is not found on the Denver Mint issues, the buzz surrounding the 1995 DDO increased attention to that year's entire penny production, including Denver's. As a result, high-grade Denver coins, especially in pristine condition, began to attract significant interest. In MS-68 red condition, these coins are not just rare, they're ultra-rare. Why do collectors covet high-grade 1995 D pennies? It's because achieving MS-67 or MS-68 red status is extraordinarily difficult for such a mass-produced coin. Even from sealed rolls, most coins exhibit minor contact marks, dull luster, or weak strikes. But the few examples that escape damage and retain their fiery red brilliance command a premium that defies their copper content. Stories have surfaced from basements, attic jars, and inherited collections. Stories of people discovering 1995 D pennies worth tens of thousands of dollars. A coin once dropped in a grocery store or given as change at a gas station suddenly becomes a gateway to a small fortune. For collectors, it's not just about the money. It's the thrill of the hunt, the allure of American history pressed in a metal, and the possibility that the next coin they flip over might just be the one. That the excitement only grows when auction records come into play. One particularly sharp example of a 1995 D Lincoln cent, graded MS-68 red by PCGS, fetched an eye-opening $12,000. That coin had flawless surfaces, radiant color, and an impeccable strike, the kind of cent that makes collectors' jaws drop. But that's just the beginning. Other specimens have sold for $16,500 and $19,000, depending on certification, strike quality, and eye appeal. And then came the jaw-dropping moment. A 1995 D Lincoln penny with elite grade and luster crossed the auction block for an astonishing $201,000. A single cent, no larger than a thumbnail, changed hands for the price of a luxury CARS. Stories of such fine spread. So too does the curiosity. People everywhere are checking their change, cracking open coin jars, revisiting childhood collections. Because the truth is that 1995 D penny could be anywhere, in a drawer, a wallet, or a forgotten piggy bank. Everyday people are waking up to the possibility that something so small, so overlooked, could be incredibly valuable. And that's what makes this story worth telling. Not just for seasoned collectors, but for anyone who believes that treasure might still exist in the most unexpected places. Next time you come across a 1995 D penny, don't dismiss it. Look closely. Check its shine. Examine the strike. And if you suspect it's something special, consider sending it off for grading. You never know. You might just be holding a six-figure piece of American history between your fingers. Here are some of the confirmed auction prices for the 1995 D Lincoln 1 cent penny. $12,000 for an MS-68 red example sold by Heritage Auctions. $16,000. $500 for a near-flawless, uncirculated coin with blazing luster. $19,000 for a certified premium red specimen with strong details, and a record-breaking $201,000 for a rare top-grade MS-68 plus coin from a copper-coated coin to a collector's dream. The 1995 D Lincoln penny is a shining example of how something seemingly ordinary can turn out to be truly extraordinary. In 1997, the U.S. Mint continued the long-standing production of a Lincoln cent, an unassuming, everyday coin passed between millions of hands without a second glance. Struck at both Philadelphia and Denver, these copper-plated zinc coins bore the familiar portrait of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, with the Lincoln Memorial standing proud on the reverse. For most, it was just spare change. But within the vast sea of more than 4.6 billion Lincoln cents minted in Denver that year, a quiet mistake was born. One unnoticed at the time, yet destined to ripple through the world of coin collectors decades later. And major design changes have been introduced that year. No commemorative obedience, no minti disruptions. The coin presses in Denver worked with machine-like precision, yet even machines are operated by people, and people make mistakes. Somewhere along the line, an overlooked detail crept into the production line. It wasn't spectacularly dramatic, not the kind of error that slaps you in the face with a double date or an inverted image. It was far more subtle, and it would take an obsessive eye to uncover what had slipped through. Jacob, a soft-spoken collector from Kansas, had been combing through pennies since he was 12 years old. By 2021, he'd built a humble yet intriguing collection of Lincoln cents. His focus wasn't necessarily value. It was anomalies. He found beauty in the unexpected, and often spent hours at his desk with a loupe and a notebook, studying coins that others would dismiss in seconds. One afternoon, While sifting through a bag of circulated cents from a local bank, he came across a slightly off-colored coin dated 1997 with a D mint mark. The color wasn't dramatically different, but something about its tone and luster didn't feel right that he set it aside. Later, under magnification, he began to notice the peculiarities. The Liberty inscription had a softness to it, as if slightly echoed. So did the date. Not your classic doubling. This wasn't the crisp, well-defined double strike of a major hubbing error. It was more ghostly, almost like the die had trembled during striking. He suspected die deterioration at first, but as he rotated the coin under the lamp, he noticed a strange ridge running along the edge near "In God We Trust." It wasn't a typical rim burr or plating bubble. It was a subtle raised crescent, inconsistent with normal wear. Flipping the coin over, Jacob squinted at the Lincoln Memorial. At first glance, everything seemed correct. But then he saw it. Between the vertical lines of the memorial's columns, certain areas appeared to be filled, as if the detail had been blurred or lost. The designer's initials, FG, appeared unusually weak, as though only partially struck. Something fell off. He pulled out a dozen more 1997 D cents for comparison. None showed the same characteristics. That ridge on the obverse, the ghosting of the letters, the weakened reverse details. It was all unique to this single coin. Curiosity turned to excitement. Could this be a new variety? An unknown declash? A misaligned die strike? Maybe even a rare off-center or late-stage strike-through? He photographed the coin, posted on a few coin forums, and waited. Responses began to pour in, most intrigued, some dismissive. But one seasoned collector messaged him directly. He had seen something similar once in a private collection not documented online. That coin, he said, also had a 1997 D mint mark and featured an odd die abrasion pattern. They compared images, and the match was uncanny. Both coins appeared to have been struck with a deteriorating die that had suffered a clash at some point, possibly followed by improper polishing. The clash would explain the ghosted doubling, and the overzealous polishing could account for the faint designer initials and missing details. But then came the twist. On closer inspection, Jacob noticed what looked like traces of an additional T below the word trust. Not raised lettering, but rather an imprint, like a phantom from a previous strike. Experts debated it fiercely. Was it a case of die transfer? Could it be a retained strike-through from a foreign object? As the debate grew, so did the coin's reputation. Initially, Jacob listed it online, not for sale, but for observation. Collectors reached out to him from around the country, requesting high-resolution scans, measurements, and weight. The coin weighed 2.5 grams, standard for copper-plated zinc. So this wasn't an off-metal error. The mystery deepened at a regional coin expo. Jacob brought the coin to a grading service booth for evaluation. The grader examined it silently for nearly 5 minutes, switching magnification levels, muttering to himself. When he handed it back, he simply said, "You've got something here. It's not your typical die deterioration." He encouraged Jacob to submit it formally for encapsulation and review. A few weeks later, the results came back. 1997, D Lincoln cent, obverse die clash with ghosting, partial reverse abrasion, retained strike transfer, MS 62 RB. The combination of errors was highly unusual. Each by itself would not command attention. But all together on one coin? This made it unique. The value started modestly. A few offers in the hundreds came through, mostly from curious collectors wanting a new conversation piece. But when a popular numismatic podcast discussed Jacob's coin and its trifecta of oddities, interest skyrocketed. Suddenly, the error was no longer just about minting quirks. It was a documented anomaly, a coin with a growing legend. One prominent collector speculated it could be the result of a damaged die that had been temporarily pulled from use, cleaned, and mistakenly returned to production before being retired completely. Soon, similar coins began to surface. Not many. Only 3 confirmed examples, but each with slight variations. Some had stronger ghost doubling, others more severe rim ridges. Jacob's remained the most balanced, with all the features clearly visible. A private auction house estimated it could fetch upwards of $8,000 if sold publicly. But Jacob declined. This wasn't just about money anymore. This coin was a chapter in the Lincoln cent's long and overlooked history. It was proof that even in modern coinage, where errors are fewer and machines are smarter, mistakes, real, rare, and remarkable, can still happen. The twist came when a retired Mint employee came forward after reading an article referencing the coin. He claimed that in late 1996, several press operators at the Denver Mint reported unexpected machine vibrations during die setup, resulting in misalignments that weren't caught for several hours. According to his notes, which were never publicly filed, a handful of dies were examined and deemed serviceable despite minor clashes and polish marks. Production resumed without further inspection. He couldn't confirm whether those dies struck any 1997 cents, but the timing and the descriptions matched Jacob's coin almost perfectly. Now, with both physical evidence and oral history lining up, the story of the 1997 D-era penny has taken its place among a short list of modern coin mysteries. As of today, fewer than 10 specimens with overlapping features have surfaced, and none with the full combination Jacob discovered first. His coin remains one of a kind, both in condition and completeness. And its value? It now sits quietly in a private vault, insured for nearly $20,000, a number whispered in collector circles but never printed. Jacob still holds the coin, not as a trophy, but as a symbol of patience, precision, and the thrill of discovery in a world where so much goes unnoticed. 1 cent, forgotten in a bank bag, now holds a story that rewrites a chapter of U.S. Mint history.